Welcome to The Refined Savage. This week on the podcast, I sit down with Mark and we talk everything in between the Marvel movies, Game of Thrones, toxic masculinity, and a lot of things in between. So if you're a nerd, you like those kind of things, you're a strong man, you have strong opinions about masculinity, go ahead, check this podcast out. Thanks, guys.
So did you watch New Girl last night?
Did I watch New Girl last night? No.
I told you should watch that.
That was by far the funniest text you've ever sent me before.
I was watching it at the time, so I said, you got to watch this show.
I got a text from Mark last night. It said, 8:30 in the morning, don't forget, also watch New Girl.
You'll like that. It's a funny show. I put it up there with probably my top 5 shows I've watched with Parks and Rec and Seinfeld in The Office.
Like I just said, I was catching up on Ant-Man.
Yes, Ant-Man.
I have not watched those 2 Marvel movies.
I was super impressed, and I don't care. It's a spoiler alert, so don't listen if you don't want to hear it. But that last post-credit scene where he's trapped in the subatomic world, that was pretty awesome.
World, right.
I never saw that. I thought that was a really good movie as far as, you go to Ant-Man, it's like one of those filler movies that you don't think is going to be any good, but I thought it was really
right.
I liked it better than fucking Black Panther.
Yeah, right.
I still can't figure out the hype around Black Panther.
Me and you are probably 2 of the only people that hated that movie. I fell asleep during it. It was so boring.
It's such a boring ass movie.
Yeah.
And people were just pissing themselves. I think that, they promoted it as the first black superhero, which I still can't fucking understand because, you've had Blade, you've had Nick Cage, you've had Storm and X-Men. It's like, it wasn't the first black superhero. There's been plenty of them in the movies,
right,
And, they do. Marvel does that shit. They'll try to, just like any company does, they try to, make concessions for whatever politically is going on. I mean, Nick Cage was a white guy in the comic books too, and now he's Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson does a great part with it though, so who cares? And that's just the thing. As long as they do a great part, I don't give a shit. I like the fact that Mary Jane is that girl in Spider-Man because she's good. I just like the character. It's a different Mary Jane than the buxom redheaded model that you saw in the normal Spider-Man comics, but as long as they do a good job, who the fuck cares? And why do we have to make a big goddamn stink over all this shit?
Yeah, right.
They're supposed to be
probably fanboy out over that stuff more than I do because I didn't read any of the comics.
Yeah, I grew up with that stuff.
Right, you grew up with comic books.
Right.
And I very rarely go to the movies and see these new Marvel movies. When I was in college, I had a roommate who loved Marvel. He read all the comic books.
Yeah.
He reads all the lore. And I always went with him just for something to do.
Right.
And they're good movies. I can sit there and watch them. My favorite one was Thor Ragnarok.
That was really good. Yeah, it was a really good one.
That was a good one.
And the Avengers movies are all good, and it's never been this. You've had this 10-year setup of starting with Iron Man, leading up to this last Avengers, and I don't know where they're going to go with it after this. Hayden and I go to everyone that comes out. Just like a father and son kind of deal, but it's 10 years of leading up to this final movie, and all these different. God knows how many movies there have been leading up to this, and television shows because they mention it in The Defenders, they mention it in Punisher or whatever. I don't know where they go after this. I'm not super psyched with Captain Marvel as the heir apparent to the next 10 years of Avengers movies, but or Marvel movies, whatever it's going to be. We'll have to see.
They've done a great job with that franchise, though.
It's been awesome.
Interlaying all the movies.
Yep.
The
post-credit scenes are the best.
That ties everything in together.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, when I first saw a couple Marvel movies, I had no idea that they were all going to tie in together.
Neither did I. No idea.
I was like, no idea what was going on. And then my buddy started talking to me about all these Infinity Stones.
Right.
What the hell is an Infinity
I think that
Stone?
first or that second Hulk movie with Ed Norton, where at the end Tony Stark's in the bar with the Major, and they're talking about I hear you have a little problem, and it was like, wow, what the fuck is this? And then people started speculating that it was going to be the Avengers, and then those post-credit scenes became such a huge. I still laugh to this day. You're sitting there, and people start getting up and leaving. I mean, have you never seen one of these fucking movies before?
Right.
And Hayden's like shocked. They're leaving, Dad. They're leaving. Yeah, I know, son.
I think what's even funnier is when you go see a movie that's not Marvel, you'll have people sit there and wait.
Right.
Like they're just like something coming at the end of the credits.
Yeah.
And then they sit around, nothing pops
I'm not
up.
willing. Matter of fact, I don't go to anything other than Marvel movies. Aaron used to go to Star Wars movies with me, but that franchise is tanked so horribly.
Did you see the new Han Solo movie?
It's on Netflix.
It's on
I refuse to
Netflix
watch
now.
it.
I watched it. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I can see how people don't like the spin-off.
Han Solo's Harrison Ford. That's just it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was weird watching a different actor. I don't even know who the actor was play Han Solo.
Right.
And he obviously did some studying. You could make relations to when Harrison Ford played Han Solo. And
right.
But it wasn't the same.
No. Yeah.
It was a good story, good plot line. You get a little of the backstory, but yeah, Star Wars is another series that.
There's going to be a time, though, because they're already using it in that Star Wars movies, where you're not going to need these fucking actors who no one's ever heard of or don't really look. You could take young Harrison Ford and CGI him into that movie.
Right.
And I can't believe it probably already is freaking out some of these actors that pretty soon they could be obsolete. I could just see John Wayne doing movies forever and him not ever
They'll be
being
immortalized,
alive.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, CGI will immortalize them.
You wouldn't have to deal with
That's what they're talking.
That kind of stuff.
Tying this back into Marvel, supposedly they're going to do that with Stan Lee still for how Stan Lee's in all the Marvel movies. They'll just CGI him in.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
I'd be down with it. That would be great. That was tough when he died, man. I think that hit not just the Marvel community and the people that love Marvel, but even my wife, who could give a shit less about Marvel movies, was upset about him dying. I mean, it was pretty cool that he got to see his vision, come to pass after all these years. And I don't know if he got to see the last Avengers movie, but hopefully they gave him a sneak preview.
Of the movie, right?
Some of these you see these dying wishes of people on Facebook just to see, the last Avengers movie before they die of cancer or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that would be my
What's the new one called? It's going to be called Endgame.
Endgame, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Supposedly Ant-Man's supposed to tie into all of it. Ant-Man's going to be like the savior with the quantum realm. I don't know. That's just rumors I'm hearing. Supposedly everybody's not dead.
No, you got Doctor Strange. This is so nerdy. Doctor Strange has the Time Stone. The Time Stone's still out there, and
speaking of which,
I think Loki's still out there.
Let me just throw this on the table.
Yeah.
All right. This is a bit spoiler. So I watched Infinity War again the other night because it was on Netflix, and they go through the whole plot line, and Doctor Strange has the Time Stone, right?
Right.
And there's a point in the movie where Star-Lord is taking off the glove of Thanos.
Right.
And then he gets mad because he killed his girlfriend.
Right.
What's her name again?
Zamora.
Zamora.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
who is super hot for a green chick.
Yeah, super hot for a green chick. Right. So anyways, he ends up getting pissed, fucks up the plan, and Thanos gets his glove back on right when they're about to get it off. All right, fast forward to the end of the movie when they're taking the Vision Stone from Vision.
Right.
They're destroying it. They destroyed it. Thanos now has the Time Stone. All he does is goes back in time and then takes the Vision Stone from him. Why did Doctor Strange just not go back in time and slap the shit out of Star-Lord and be like, don't do that again. We're going to get this glove off.
It's a good question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is a plot.
That's what I thought.
I'm sure there's John White down in Mansfield will probably have that all mapped out. He's a huge Marvel guy. He probably would know exactly why.
So the best explanation I got from high school kids at track practice, we were talking about these movies one day, and the kids explained it to me that everything's going as planned. So also in the movie, Doctor Strange goes through all the possible scenarios.
Right, yeah.
There's like 1 million something
different ways they'd fail, and there's only one way they'd win. And supposedly, everything's going according to plan.
Right.
Like this was all supposed to happen, and this is the one way the Avengers are going to defeat
Right.
Thanos.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm looking forward to the Captain Marvel movie. That was I wasn't super into Captain Marvel growing up, but I read enough of the comics to kind of get the baseline behind her, and it's a real convoluted story, which I don't know if they'll actually get into that whole story, but I'm sure they'll give her background and that kind of stuff. But yeah, we'll see how that turns out. I'm looking forward to it this year, and we have that and Game of Thrones coming out.
Right.
So.
I said since we're on this topic, we
Yeah.
might as well just throw Game of Thrones out there
Yeah.
too. April 19th, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's April 19th. They just released a teaser trailer.
I got to figure out how to get, because I used to get it from some less than legal means every month. So this year, can you just buy it on? I think you can just
They
buy
have
it
like
through
HBO
iTunes,
Go.
right?
Yeah. You can get like a subscription. My buddy does it in Pennsylvania. He just supposedly you can do like a month of HBO Go.
Yeah, but I don't even have cable, so I don't even
You
know.
just need internet. You just
Okay.
need
I'll
internet.
have to
It's
try
like
that.
HBO Go is like HBO online.
Right. I think we actually watched it. They gave us a free month last year, and we watched it on HBO Go. So we don't have it anymore. So we'll have
Right.
to.
And HBO Go is incredible.
Yeah.
So with the with the cable subscription, you know, they'll do on demand and stuff, but HBO doesn't give you all their shows.
Right.
But when you go on HBO Go, every series they've ever done on
Maybe
HBO,
I'll just
The
sign
Sopranos,
up for that. I know because we watched Sopranos on
The
that
Pacific, Band of Brothers, Game of Thrones. What are some other? All their big series are on there, which is just great. So you never need to buy
too. Yeah, I'll
the
look into
DVD
that.
bundles. But yeah, Game of Thrones is a great series.
I haven't watched American Gods yet. That's the other one, but I think that's on Stars. I
Oh
want to
yeah,
check
I've never
out.
even heard of that.
The book is really good. Neil Gaiman's book, American Gods, is really good, and I've been meaning to check that series out yet, but I haven't got around to it, which is just not enough time in the day
Right.
to watch all this crap and still do work.
Yeah, for sure. There's a bunch of shows out there, and you know it's funny. I always just fall towards The Office at the end of the day when
I
I
do
turn
too.
to Netflix.
Just put on.
Like, I always just go to something that like I don't really need to watch it because I've seen it so many times,
Yeah.
but it just plays in the
The
background.
koi pond one was on yesterday when I was watching, where
Oh.
Jim didn't help him and he fell in the koi
He
pond.
felt, yeah, great show.
Yeah, I put that on as background music all the time.
Yeah, so we're just coming off of Odins Challenge
Odins
weekend.
Challenge is done. I don't know when
Right.
this will get released. We'll put it out sometime before Anvil of Crom. Anvil of Crom's up next. That seems like it's going to be big. Odins was good. It was really good, and we started to have a new vision for how we wanted our competitions to run, and you know we've kind of always backed away from having governing bodies involved in our sport. I was a big fighter against the IHGF in Highland Games. I've since softened my stance on them a little bit, mostly because they aren't in charge of how much money I make. But the worst Odins Challenge we ever had, or worst competition we ever ran, is when we took it out to that giant soccer arena.
Yeah, that game day sports.
And had
complex or whatever it's
USS
called.
involved, and we had the most people. I think we had like 70 people or 65 people, but it just wasn't the same atmosphere. It wasn't. Everything was so spread out, and then we had to worry about getting people extra money so they could sign up for USS, and I had to fund a couple people. I had to slip a couple people $25 here and there because they didn't even know they had to buy a card. And with a governing body, I want the governing body to do something for me, not just say your event is relevant. And if you run a USS or a NAS event, God, man, great, that's your prerogative. It's just not for us. It's not what we want to do. We get enough athletes without having it to be sanctioned. And we started to think about what our events are. They aren't a way to qualify for nationals. They aren't some big stressful event where you're worried about who's going to show up at these things. Some people come into them really trying to win and really go hard, and we love that. Some people come out and use this as a training day, and some people just come out because they want to have a good time with their pals and be in a good environment where everything's going to be run smoothly and efficiently, and you get to just hang out and have a good day. So
right, it's more of a celebration.
it's a celebration. We call
right.
it. We're not even calling them competitions anymore. We're calling them gatherings. I worked really hard after that same event. So that same event at Oberlin, we bought these medals for the competition, and on Amazon they looked awesome. When they got there, they were shit, and so I was like, "Fuck!" So people made fun of me over that. It was just a screw up that we gladly accept. But ever since then, I've been on a mission to get some really awesome trophies, and I think we've done that in our last few events. We had those freaking savage weapons at Highlander last year, and then at Odins Challenge we had these trophies made from metal plate that were just awesome, and we've got some awesome ones for Anvil coming up, and we're probably going to stick with this guy for a while. But we also pulled in some vendors this year. We just got another a vendor as well that I'll announce here in a couple days. But the vendors we're trying to get at these events, and I'm not charging vendors, so that's a back step for us as far as we're not trying to make money off vendors. We just want to have the best vendors there for people that have products that suit the needs of our athletes. So we had Viking Coffee. And if you ever met Evan from Viking Coffee, Evan is he's basically a caveman, man. He's a strength and conditioning coach at Bowling Green. He brews coffee in this fucking cave out back of his house, and he makes old man strength coffee, which if you've tried, I think people are starting to dig that. And then we had the Pavilion Food Truck, which is this guy who used to be the sous chef at this Michelin star restaurant here in Ohio, and he left and opened his own food truck. So now he's this like gourmet food on this crazy food truck, and people are going out there thinking, it's going to be burgers and hot dogs, and it was like this incredible food.
Right, they had like pulled pork sandwiches, like homemade chips,
giant hamburgers, and
right. I didn't eat any of it, but it smelled delicious.
Yeah, and so they're coming back, I believe. Evan's coming back. We've got this other company that we'll announce here soon coming back, and then we always have the Refined Savage booth there. So we gave out free beer. We charged $1 for the water, but we gave free beer out, so that went real quick. So we're going to have to get more of that. Or I'd actually like to get, if there's any brewing companies out there who want to come out and have a free day to give out some samples and sell your products. I don't know how that works. I'm sure you have to have license and all this shit, but the government nonsense. But yeah, if you know how to do that, and you're a company that brews beer or even better rum, give me a holler, and we'll see if we can set you up with a space for our events. So.
Yeah, my biggest fear going into that was that the vendors wouldn't do well, but it seemed like
they did really well. And it seemed to be a party. I couldn't get people out of there at the end of the day. We started pretty promptly right around 10 o'clock, and I think we were done at 2. We moved 40 athletes through 3 events, and I don't think anyone was rushed. I told the judges, give them as much warm-up time as they need, because I think we're going to get through this fast, and we did. And people were having a good time, and I was announcing, and then for our big competitions like Highlander and Odins Challenge, we give out $100 for the open winners. So I don't know how many strongman events or Highland Games do, but I don't know how many strongman events, even in pro classes, give out actual money to the people who win. The other good thing about our events is, talking to someone like Brooke Souza, who's a pro strong woman, she only has so many opportunities to compete. So, because if you're a USS or a NAS pro, you can't compete in anything but pro competitions. So those aren't as frequent as regular competitions. With ours, come and compete in the open class, because you're going to make $100 and there's no sanctioning. This is a gathering. It's not a competition. We're not under anybody's rules. So I think it would be nice for them to come out. I mean, if you can't come out and do a 3-event competition on a Saturday and just use it as a training day, I mean, if you think that that's going to stress you, then you're probably not the athlete you think you are to begin with.
You should probably get in a little bit better shape.
I mean, yeah, what are you doing? 5 minutes of total work? Come on.
Right.
Come out and have a good time and actually hang out with some of these people. And you meet these incredible athletes who are, they probably don't get a chance to hang out with that often, I always go back, we had Sharon Moss here and Nick Rosendahl, who are two fantastic humans from down in the Columbus area, who are just great athletes and great humans and a lot of fun, and they always come to our events. Sean Shoemaker, on in the road to a 900-pound deadlift. He was sick that day, but his whole gym came out, Team BSS, and
yeah,
those are
great
people. And I've told him that we're going to return the favor as much as possible and do his events. And yeah, it was great. And I hope more gyms jump on board, and we'd love to fill these events up and just have a good time with them. Next one coming up is Anvil of Crom, which is our it's a combo strongman and fitness competition. I actually got the idea from watching. There was one in Iceland, I think, the last 2 years, and then I think Klokov runs one called Strong Fit. And I kind of got the idea from watching those, and I thought it was perfect for our people here at the gym and perfect for gyms like BSS. And, if you've got this same attitude we do where it's awesome to be strong, but you also want to be in decent shape too and actually look like you lift weights, I mean, this is the competition. I wish I could compete at it. I'll have too much going on, but it looks like a fun event. We're looking at max deadlift. So it's you and your partner, 20 minutes to hit a max deadlift, and it's your combined total between the two of you. You have a stone ladder, so both of you have a series of, I think, 5 stones. It's your team trying to get through these stones as fast as possible. And then the third one is going to be a Metcon, which isn't quite as brutal as last year, but last year's Metcon was brutal. We toned it down a little bit this year. That's what you get when you have a former regional competitor in Aaron making up your Metcons for fat people. So this year we toned it down a little bit, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I wish I could do it.
Well, I think last year's Metcon was so hard because, I mean, we have a pretty big space, but there was a lot of people in here.
Yeah.
And the temperature, as soon as you start, your heart rate got up.
Yeah.
You could not breathe.
Yeah, I think we had ended up having the garage doors open, and it was pretty cold out.
Yeah, it was cooler in March.
I see us running a couple flights this year because I think there's going to be a good number. There's people getting a hold of me already. So if you're out there, I don't know when it's going to come out, but if you're out there, don't wait on this one. If you want to sign up, Eventbrite page will be up by the time this comes out, and get on there and sign up for it.
And you'll probably pair people up again.
Yeah, there's a lot of singles who need partners.
Yeah. So last year there was a bunch of people who wanted to do it, but they didn't. Like, I don't know who my partner should be.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah,
you have that problem, just get a hold of Mark. He'll pair you up.
It becomes a babysitting service where I have to, not even babysitting, but it's almost like I'm a matchmaker. Like I'm having to introduce these people to each other, and then I've got, some people's wives are pissed off because they're partnered. Well, if you're pissed off that your husband's doing a competition with somebody, get your fat ass in the gym. What the fuck? Are you serious? You're going to be mad?
The whole Stephen Moore debacle last year.
Oh, he was that. I don't know. See, Stephen, though, you never know if it's real or if he's making shit up just to fuck with you, So I never know. But Stephen wasn't the only one. There was a ton of people who had jealous spouses, both men and women, who, you're not competing in that competition with that girl and that kind of stuff. It's just like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Because they're going to fuck right
after.
Yeah,
right. In the middle of the competition, they're just going to be shedding clothes and getting after it. They're not in there dying. And it's just like they just want to compete, just throwing them together with somebody, God.
Yeah, so I really like our events, and we always try to make them better, Me and you are constantly throwing ideas out at each other to try to make it either more efficient or more fun. Yeah, it's great. I love doing events.
Yeah, and that's the key, I think, is just to have fun with them. And we definitely are not going to have an event that runs, 8-10 hours plus. I don't have the attention span for it. So we try to get through them as fast as possible. And if you have enough volunteers and you run the competition correctly, there is no way a competition should last for 8 hours. It just shouldn't. You have to have enough volunteers. You have to have enough space, and you need to really put some thought into it. So, I mean, for you athletic directors out there running strongman events, just put some time and effort into getting some volunteers and doing some logistical work to make sure you don't have people standing out there for 8 hours in the heat or in the cold or whatever. And it's too much. You're spending your whole day there, and then a lot of people are traveling home and back. And as a vendor, when I'm there as a vendor, there's 2 times people buy gear from you: right before the competition, and then mostly right after the competition. So if you get there at 8 a.m., the majority of your sales come when the competition's done. That could be 8 hours later. So now you're actually working. So you're sitting there all day watching. Sometimes you're not even able to watch a strongman event because you're away from it, or
Yeah.
So
I was going to bring up the story. I was going to say, or if they last 8 hours, you'll make somebody miss their reservations. Like my brother and Kelly.
Funny.
This is a bit jab to Shawn, no offense, but
that wasn't Shawn's fault at all. That was
was it Shawn's competition?
Yeah, we were going super fast. I mean, we were blowing through that competition, and he ran into a snag because the athletes, not because of him. So he was doing a last man standing deadlift, and I went up and deadlifted it in the warm-ups, and it was like, oh, okay. So he had a guy's car and a girl's cart, and I went up and lifted the guy's car, and I was like, okay, this is whatever the weight was. It was super easy. I'm going to give it 150, 200 pounds before I come in again. And they were jumping in like 50 and 100 pound increments, I think, or 50 and 90, and 45 and 90. And these clowns were taking every pull at 45 pound increments. I'm like, are you fucking serious, dudes? I mean, have some confidence in yourself that you can take a 90 pound jump. Was that super easy for you? All right, let's get to 90. So I think I ended up taking 3 pulls total on that car, where some of these guys were taking like 15 and 16 pulls.
Yeah,
it's like,
too many.
Dude, what? Just have some confidence in yourself and know that you're a 600 pound deadlifter, and the car is now in your hand weight at 500. You're fine,
Right. So while that was going on, my brother came up to you and said he was going to leave,
yeah,
right?
So it had gone longer than Shawn wanted it to, and again, it was totally the athlete's fault, not Shawn's in any way. And so Zane came to me, Zach's brother, and says, "Oh, hey, we're going to leave." And there was like 2 events left. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to leave? Well, we have dinner reservations. And I don't think we're going to make it. I'm like, oh, you have dinner reservations? Well, then by all means, you should fucking leave. So every person who would walk by me, when Zane was, I don't know why Zane continued to sit next to me. He was sitting next to me, and I'm just busting his balls. And every person, whether I knew him or not, that would walk by me and go, hey, Jerry has dinner reservations, so he's leaving early. And they would all look at me, what do you mean you're leaving early? Like girls are making fun of him and little kids. And he was finally, I don't know who relented. I don't know if he relented or Kelly relented. Whoever, him and his girlfriend, one of them relented, and all of a sudden he stayed for the last 2 events. But if he would have left, I would have tortured him probably for the rest of his life for leaving that event early.
He probably wouldn't have been able to show his face in the gym again.
We would have just sacked him.
Would have been too much.
Yeah, but he told me, well, it's our date night. I said, you are 2 single 20-somethings living together. Every fucking night is date night. You have no children. You have very little responsibilities. Every night is date night. Me and my wife have to have fucking date night. Not you two. But so that happened. And but another Shawn runs fantastic competitions too. So when BSS has a competition, or Shane Rickman too. Shane runs great ones up in Michigan. So check those out too. And Aaron runs great ones. He's got that Frankenmuth one. Check those ones out. I'm going to be up at Frankenmuth, I think, this year with a vendor spot. So.
Shawn's got a really good culture at his gym. I love when his team BSS comes to our gym.
Yep.
They're all helping each other out, cheering each other on.
And they're studs. They're all super good at everything.
Yeah.
Mark Jones looks like he's on the road to an 800-pound deadlift. And, that goes back to the culture thing we have talked about in the past, that those things become easy when you see other people, and I'm sure Mark looks at Shawn and goes, well, Shawn can do it, I should be able to do it, and who the fuck is Mark? Mark's just another guy from Ohio. He's not some jacked up 300-pound strongman. He's a dude who's in super good shape. He was a good athlete, and there's no reason why he looks at Shawn and goes, well, why can't I deadlift 800 pounds, So he's on his road to 800. Shawn's on his road to 900, and I think that's, kind of the atmosphere we have here with stones too, where people are lifting stones in here that 10, 15 years ago, only the best of the best were lifting, and we're just a bunch of clowns from, Northern Ohio. There's nothing special going on as far as, the athletes we're breeding. This isn't Iceland. It's just guys who see other guys lifting it and go, oh, if he can do it, I can do it, And I think that's what Shawn has at BSS, is you just have a bunch of people who it's a good environment, and it's motivating, and they're getting after it daily and doing some incredible stuff. I'm so psyched to see Shawn pull at the Arnold this year. I'm going to try to get in there for that. I got so much shit going on at the Arnold this year, but I'd like to go see him pull. That's for sure.
Yeah. Did he win it last year?
I don't know how that works. I just noticed that he deadlifted, was it 850, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's all I cared about.
It's nuts.
Yeah, I think that's all he cared about.
He weighs 235-ish?
If that, I mean, yeah, I don't even know if he's as heavy as I am, but I think he might even lift as a 220.
Really?
I think he does lift as a 220. I think he diets down. But yeah, I mean, 850 for anybody, like I've said before, there was a time not long ago where 700-pound deadlift meant you were fucking strong.
Right.
I mean, there just weren't guys doing that, and or not a ton of guys doing that. And I remember that was like my proudest moment ever in lifting, was I had hit a 730 deadlift. Now, shit, you're probably gonna have a girl do that pretty soon. I mean,
girls are deadlifting crazy numbers right now.
Yeah, it's getting nuts. There's a handful of 600-pound deadlifting women, and I still will tell people that a 500-pound deadlift separates the men from the boys. If you're able to pull 500 pounds, you're doing pretty good. And then anything above that, great. You're a strong dude. And then you get into those upper echelon people who are pulling 1,000 pounds. Thor did 880 for a double the other day in training, and it's awesome. It's awesome. Strength training is busting through the roofs right now. It's really cool to see.
So let's get to the topic that we're here for today.
Yeah.
So you made a post earlier in the week about this, and you're more literate on this topic probably than I am. So you feel like your masculinity is being attacked nowadays. True
I don't
or false?
I don't think my masculinity is being attacked. I don't think you can attack my masculinity. I am what I am. I think my biggest concern is with that whole thing. So we're talking about that Gillette commercial, and what I did was I wrote a letter to Gillette, basically telling them that I understand what you're doing. You're pandering to this growing base of people that are vocal within the media. So you have these feminist groups, the Me Too movement, some of these far left-wing groups, and they're pandering to them in order to sell more razors. I totally get it. What I don't like is being lectured by a multi-billion-dollar company on the moral problems with masculinity. The first one of the first things you hear in that video is someone saying toxic masculinity in the back, and they have all these cartoonish images of men. So you have this group of 20, 30 something hipstered up looking guys standing around a barbecue, which right off the bat, is like the stereotypical men standing around the barbecue while all the real work's being done somewhere else. And then these kids getting into fights, and the guy saying, "Oh, boys will be boys," and then a cartoonish guy like reaching out to grab the ass of this woman, and he's like all fiendish looking, and and then someone's got to pull him away, and then there's another like super soft. These two kids get in a fight, so this super soft looking guy comes over and pulls them apart and says, "Guys, we should just be friends, and this isn't what boys do." And the point for me is, if you would have put out an ad that said, "Hey, maybe we should just all stop being dicks to each other and just be friendly and be nice and not do these detrimental things to each other and not act in these horrific ways to each other," wouldn't that be great? And I would have had a super effect on me. I would have been very happy if they did that. What they did was they focused it all towards men. They used that phrase toxic masculinity, and it was just a blatant long bomb Hail Mary throw towards that vocal minority who is screaming and yelling, the radical feminists and the far left wing and this Me Too movement. It was just a long bomb to them, trying to gin up some kind of social media buzz, which they obviously got. That video of mine, I checked it last night, I think it was shared or that letter was shared 75 times on Facebook, and I don't know how many times on Instagram. It had more likes than any post I've ever put up in my life, and it caused some real debate. I stopped debating on it because after talking to some people and trying to say my side of this and where it came from, you realize, just like with all Facebook discussions, is you're speaking to the person. And I do a really good job of trying to break down what the person says and look at, okay, is there something here I'm missing? And I really do this because I don't get involved in these very often. It's very rare. But I'm trying to explain my point to people, and they're not listening. They continue to spout their point over and over and over again. And finally, I just said, you know what, I'm going to turn off the notifications, and I'm sure I'm still getting notifications on it. I'm just not going to go back because it's boring after a point, trying to work through these arguments again and again. Yes, it would have been great if people, and I don't even know if companies, I don't want companies giving us any kind of moral compass. It's not their job. Just sell me a fucking razor. It would have been great if the ad would have said, "Let's stop being dicks to each other." What I didn't like was that it was all focused on men. And I think you have this growing culture of anti-male sentiment in the country. And hey, I'm a middle-aged white male. I have not had it rough. And I don't think that any attack from the left or from women's group is going to affect middle-aged white males in my lifetime. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter. I'm just tired of being lectured. I'm tired of because I have a cock, I'm being lumped in with the Harvey Weinsteins and the Bill Cosbys of the world. My wife is a beautiful, professional woman who is smart and athletic and doesn't need me to get her through life. We picked each other because we loved each other, not because we needed anything from the other one. But my wife, who is a nurse manager and a hot shot at her hospital, if she's bending over in the kitchen, gets slapped on the ass. That's just the way I am, and she understands that and doesn't take any offense to it. It's just the way it is. I'm a guy. I do guy things.
Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys. We were having a discussion last night, and I talked about this on an earlier podcast where Aaron and I had just started dating. We were in a sushi restaurant in San Antonio, Texas, and we were sitting at the sushi bar. We finished our meal, and we started walking out through the bar, and this guy did like the head turn and watched Aaron walk to the bar and then turned around and like stared at her ass the whole time. And when he turned around, I was face to face with him. And I just said, "Did you get a good look, motherfucker?" And Aaron didn't know any of this was going on. She had walked out of the restaurant, and his friends just started laughing at him, because. But there are things you have to do when you're a man. I mean, we were talking about it last night. There are points when you're a man where you may have to use violence. It just happens. You may have to kick somebody's ass at a point. And I think, personally, I think if you have never been punched in the nose, you shouldn't be allowed to even hold office in this country, because you don't understand the ramifications of putting people in harm's way, whether those are police officers or if you're the president sending troops off to battle. I don't believe, and I'm not a veteran, I don't believe you should be president of the United States unless you've spent time in the military. You can't be called commander-in-chief if you are some hotshot New York trust fund baby who decides that he's going to be president, and you're sending these people off to battle without any real knowledge of what that entails. So there are times in a man's life where violence is necessary. I think it's good to be a man and show manly virtues, and it's good to be a woman and show womanly virtues. But
so do you think with this whole movement going on, so a lot of people were heated up about this, especially it seems like a lot of strength sport males have this like strong opinion on what they think masculinity is, how to be masculine and stuff. So do you think that over the past, I don't know, decade or so, the feminist movement, other movements like Me Too have kind of been obscuring what masculinity is? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like there's a fine line.
I know what you're saying.
Like, where do we draw the line? Is that what got people so fired up about this ad? Like, is there a point where we need to stand up and, this may even play into gender roles types of things? I saw a comment I'm touching a lot here on your post, between the difference between a gender is biological, male, female.
It's all fucking nonsense. So who cares?
Depending on like your different beliefs or whatever.
Yeah.
But biologically, that's male, female, and masculinity and feminist are completely different than your gender.
Yeah. As far as the biological and gender thing is, I'm a 45-year-old guy. I have no problem if you're a guy and think that you should have been born a girl, or if you're a girl who likes other, none of that shit matters to me. I'm 100% in favor of just living your own life and doing your own thing. You can't speak nonsense to me and say that there's 75 different genders or whatever it is. It just is what it is. I'm never going to understand that. My guess is by the time my son grows up, all this will be just old news to him, and he'll understand it and have just like anything in society that we get that's new. I'm just not willing to go deep into it and do any kind of soul searching on what I think gender is. There are men and there are women, and whatever. And as long as you're not hurting me, I could care less what you do. I think feminism has been hijacked by these loud, outspoken social media people who they're the squeaky wheel. So they take over these movements, and you have people out there. I mean, I would consider my wife a feminist. I would consider myself a feminist. If feminism means that you're looking for equal rights among men and women, then sign me up 100%. But I think it's become, that word has become just another team like Republican or Democrat. And you get these very loud, obnoxious people yelling and screaming about it. And then even worse is you get the guys who are like the virtue signalers who just want to show how much more virtuous they are than you are. So Aaron was arguing with one clown on Facebook the other night. I just said, just stop arguing with him. And he's he's got some fake name on Facebook, and I think it's a fake name or it's a ridiculous name, one of the two. And he's not listening to her side of the argument at all. And he's basically arguing all the same points she is, but he's just, trying to outsmart her. First of all, you're not going to fucking outsmart Erin. She's very well thought out and comes up with these things. But he's throwing all this stuff out at her, and finally, I just said, just stop arguing with him. He's not listening to you, so there's no reason to have these conversations with him. You don't know him. Just let it go. I think in the last 10 years, you have people trying to define masculinity who either are women or who are men who aren't able to live up to what the original standard, with the long-standing tradition of masculinity is. Jack Donovan, I always go back to his books and his definition of being a good man, which is different than being good at being a man. But to be a good man and to be good at being a man. So to be good at being a man, you have to have strength, honor, courage, and mastery. So physical strength, not any other kind. So you have to have some training systems, some physical strength, the ability to go if you needed to go, if you needed to defend your borders or defend your family. You have to have some of that, and go to the local Kalahari or water park and see some of these guys walking around, and they should definitely be absolutely fucking ashamed of themselves that they've let themselves get into this state where they're big soft man tits and bellies hanging over their shorts, and they can't swim, and they just look horrible. That's something that men should all look at. They take a long look in the mirror and say, I'm a fat fuck. I need to lift weights. I need to do yoga. I need to get into some kind of martial art. I need to do something. You have courage. There takes an element of courage. If some guy, Todd and I were talking about this last night. If some guy grabs your girlfriend's ass in the gym or in the bar, hopefully they won't do it at the gym, but if someone grabs your girlfriend's ass in the bar, you have a moral obligation to stand up for that. And if it means throwing hands, it means throwing hands, and you might get your ass kicked. I am not some MMA fighter, but it doesn't matter. If someone grabs Aaron's ass in the gym, they're gonna get dealt with one way or another. And there's some guys out there who are absolutely fucking terrifying. But you have to have that courage. You have to stand up and say, that isn't right. Fuck you. It's on now. Mastery is, I think you really need to be good at something. You have to have a skill. You have to have something that separates you from the pack. Are you a woodworker? Can you work leather? Can you brew coffee like Evan Armstrong? Do you know how to get people healthy and fit? Do you know how to work on a car? Are you an archer? Are you a whatever? You have to have the mastery of something. And then finally, the one that kind of links them all together is that honor. And we've talked about honor in here, and a lot of men lack that in 2019. And when you take an oath, you stand by that oath. And if you make a deal with someone, you make a deal with someone. And if you shake their hand, that's it. And I've been screwed over on this a lot of times with these handshake deals, or just hey, I'm going to tell you something, and that's the way it's going to be. But people are very tempted to morph those deals into something else, and it's honor that keeps you from morphing those deals, and it prevents lawlessness. And the reason why we have to have things like lawyers and courts and this kind of stuff is because people just do not stand by their word anymore, and that is super important to me, that when you say something, you do it, and that's it. And it sometimes it sucks. You make some promise to somebody that ends up really going to bite you in the ass in the end. But I've gritted my teeth and done it more times than I can imagine, and it's important. But I think those virtues that Jack set out are a great template for just being good at being a man. And if you haven't read his books, Jack has some ideas that are going to irritate a lot of people who are sensitive. But his books, The Way of Men is fantastic. Becoming a Barbarian. I can't remember his latest one. But you can find all his books online, and they're very good. I am not a Jack Donovan wannabe or anything. He's a guy whose books have set with me a little bit, and I don't agree with everything he says, but I think when you look at traditional masculinity, there's nothing wrong with being strong, courageous, masterful, and honorable. I mean, and those don't just sit with men. Women should live by those same rules as well, and that's where I think we have a problem, because masculinity is not necessarily whether it's not necessarily a trait that has to stick with men. I think it's a good thing. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. Masculinity is a good thing. Toxicity is a bad thing, and you shouldn't put those two things together.
Right. So what it sounds like to me is, like, if you go trait by trait, some of the things that the Gillette commercial said, like, boys will be boys. That's an okay thing to say, you know what?
Right.
Like, boys will be boys, but then you can't use that phrase to justify something like a sexual harassment.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That's where you need to draw that line. That's where you need to have some sort of honor, and let kids nowadays, let men know nowadays that, no, you pass that line. Like,
right.
that is you can no longer use the excuse, boys will be boys.
Yeah.
But if you're being bullied at school and you stand up and you punch the other kid in the face, then boys will be boys apply there. Like, yeah, you stood up for yourself. That's good. Like, that's a good thing. That's masculine. That's what you need to do for yourself. And then other things like men will be more aggressive in nature. And, you know, sometimes that can lead to assault, whatever, bad things. Like, bad can come from your aggression.
Putting a man on the moon, too.
Right, exactly. But then you also need people to teach you to apply those aggressions in the right fields in the right way.
Yeah.
So, like, aggressively pursuing your goal, that sort of thing. And those are all good traits to have. What other ones am I missing? Like slapping your girlfriend on the ass, you know, like you said, Aaron in the kitchen, you know, like, that's not like you're going up to some random girl in the bar and grabbing her ass before you even talk to her. Like, that's sexual harassment.
I was playing with this the other day because we had a kind of a philosophy when we were throwing, and it's funny that we're talking about that, and I was trying to work it into some kind of t-shirt that wasn't offensive to people. So when I was throwing and really getting after it, I mean, this was years ago, and I always said that there was 3 things that motivated me to get in the gym, and that was scratch, snatch, or shame. So if I was training super hard, it was because I knew Highland Games season was coming up, and I needed that scratch. I needed that money, and I was going to get as strong and fast as I possibly could and train as hard as I could because I needed that money and I wanted that cash. And that became kind of a badge of honor for me. You know, it was, and for all of us, it was like, how much money did you make today? Well, I made this much money. Ah, fuck you, I made this much money. So scratch was a big deal. The next one was snatch. So I wanted to look good. I wanted to be this alpha male type, you know, to attract girls. You know, that was, you know, before my wife, you know, girls are obviously great, you know, so I was trying to look good for the girls. And then shame, which is probably pretty much the one I train for now here in the gym, is we fuck with each other. And if you lift more than somebody else, you get the right to bust their balls all day, you know. So I never wanted to be last at anything, and I always wanted to win stuff. So I didn't want that shame of failure. all those things tie in with male aggression. And I don't think there's too many women who train for the same ideals, or at least they wouldn't put it in the same framework as I did. But that all ties in with male aggression and production of testosterone and that kind of stuff. But the same aggression that led Genghis Khan to conquer all of Asia is the same aggression that has put a man on the moon, or done any of these incredible things. Elon Musk's with all his SpaceX stuff and putting cars into space and wanting to build tunnels. That's all male aggression. That's all testosterone-based aggression. And it's good. Men do great things. They do some horrible things too, but that's not gender specific.
Right. So what's the potential danger if you don't stand up and don't voice your opinion? Like, what dangers do you see from allowing companies like Gillette to obscure this image of what masculinity is? Do you think this will have any effect on, for example, your son's generation? Is there certain traits that might be lost?
I think I've always said that I raised my son in the 80s. So where we live in Ohio, it's 1980. So, he's always been raised with the, you come home when the street lights are on, he goes out, he plays with his friends. I may not see him for 4 or 5 hours. It's okay. He's learning, he's going through that same upbringing that I had, where, I'd be out the door. My parents had had no idea where I was until dinner time. And, you have to, and look, I'm not an expert on child rearing by any stretch of the imagination. I'm horrible at it, and if Aaron wasn't around, the kid would probably be a lawless scumbag. But I think you need to forget about this fear that your child is going to be abducted or killed in some 1 in a million type incident, and just let the children live a childhood and learn things on their own and deal with problems on their own. I made a comment the other day that was probably a little controversial, that I think kids learn more from bullies than they do from teachers. And the comment was based on the fact that, when you are bullied in school, and how many people were bullied in school, it teaches you to figure out conflict resolution. Teaches you how to deal with difficult people. It may inspire you to become something more than what you thought you were going to be. And nobody wants to see their kid bullied. Hayden had some problems when he was very young with some older kids on the bus, and it wasn't like I went in and told the principal that if this happened again, there was going to be some kind of lawsuit. No, I did end up talking to the principal at one point, and that issue was brought up, and I said, look, this is the way it's going to be. He's been instructed that if it gets out of hand and someone lays a hand on him, he's to fight and keep fighting until a teacher pulls him off. And the principal didn't like that very much. And I just told him, I said, I live in 1980. I'm 1970s technology. That's just the way I am. And after that fight, he's going to be brought home and given ice cream, and it doesn't matter what you do to him.
It's part of learning to be independent too. Like,
absolutely.
You don't need someone there it's a lesson I learned a little bit later. Like, you don't always need someone there to take care of your problems for you.
Right.
Like, there's a point in time where you can start taking care of, and it doesn't always have to be like bullying. Like, you don't need to take care of the bully, but just in general aspects of your life, like, just start knocking shit out.
Yeah, and I think it's people complain that it's so hard to raise kids in these times. I think it's easy, because I think if you give them these basic coping skills and a little bit of physical training and give them a little bit of independence to learn and grow, they're going to be so much more advanced than all the other kids that they deal with. They're going to be at a whole different level. This used to be common practice among people. And now it's so rare that it gives your kid this crazy steroid-like advantage over other kids, where you just give them these basics that we took for granted in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I always get excited when I see a group of kids like rolling around town on bikes.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? That's the
Yep.
stuff I used to do when I was a kid. I didn't have a cell phone until I think my sophomore or junior year of high school.
Yep.
And nowadays, we've had this conversation before. I can't even imagine going anywhere without my cell phone.
Right, yeah.
The first thing I think of when I'm driving my car and I forgot my phone at home is like, what if I get in a car accident? What am I going to do? But I didn't, 25 years old, so this wasn't even that long ago. But ride around my bike all day, basically, through Amherst without a cell phone.
Right.
My parents had like really no idea where I was. It'd be like, I'm going to so-and-so's house. And we'd go other places, ride around our bikes, go hang out at baseball games and at the fields, like whatever, normal kid stuff. And you don't see that much nowadays anymore. No. And I read a story, I forget where I might have heard it on a podcast or read it in one of the news websites, but there was a parent in New York who taught his kids how to walk home from school.
Oh, I did see that. I heard that on Rogan, I think it was on.
And he taught them how to walk home from school safely. And an officer saw these two kids walking in the streets one day after school and took them home and tried to make this big, huge thing about poor parenting. And the dad, I think it was like, no, I'm teaching my kids how to be independent. I've taught them how to walk home from school. They're supposed to stick together, be safe. And it's just it's absurd that nowadays that has to be looked at as bad parenting.
Yeah.
Kids walk home from school all the time.
I think Hayden was in the 6th grade when he started riding his bike to school when the weather was nice enough, and a couple of miles to school and back, and that's okay. You look at bus stops now. There's literally a bus stop like every other driveway because these kids can't walk 100 yards to a bus stop, or they can't stand out in the cold when it's below 30 degrees. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, I had shit like ice hanging from my face when I got to school some of these times.
Yeah.
What's difficult for kids nowadays, I think, is the lack of role models in media, too. So, well before your time, in the 80s, we had this culture in movies and television where you had these guys to look up to. So we had, the Clint Eastwoods and John Waynes, but then you also had Arnold and Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal and all these super masculine heroes that you would look up to. And I was big into pro wrestling, so the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes and these guys were all guys that you wanted to be like. You wanted to train like Nikita Koloff, or you wanted to look like Arnold in Conan. And now you don't see that. You have Dwayne Johnson, who does every action role out there, and I think that's why he works so much, because he's the only guy left like that. And the other guys that they pick for action roles are so they don't look impressive. You wouldn't see. I mean, if you saw Arnold on the street in 1980, you would have been like, "Holy fuck, what is that?" You see, Keanu Reeves, and you're just like, there's just another guy. Looks like a hippie, but you have a total lack of that. So that's the other thing we do with Hayden is we today I've got some shit to do. I've got to train, and then I've got to go give blood, and then I'm going home. Aaron's at work, and we're watching Conan the Barbarian for the first time. He's never seen Conan. So a couple weeks ago we watched The Last Dragon, but a couple weeks before that we watched Die Hard, and we've done Magnificent Seven. And I pulled him out of school one time when he was probably 6 or 7 to go to the movies because they were playing in theaters John Wayne's The Searchers. So I thought that was a good enough reason to yank him out of fucking school, and we're going to go watch John Wayne and The Searchers. And he hates the lead up to these movies. He's like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do this again. He bitches and moans, and then he loves the movie when they're done, because there's nothing like that anymore. There's no more, Dino De Laurentiis Conan going across the step with the ecstasy for gold playing in the background or whatever, and it's you don't see that anymore, and it's a shame. And I think that's part of the reason, when Kanye West is and some of these people are your role models as a child, because you don't see anything else, and your dad works 12 or 14 hours a day if he's even around, that's who you look up to. My father worked all the time, so my dad wasn't my role model until I was older. My dad I didn't want to look like my dad. I wanted to look like the Road Warriors, but my dad went off to work every day and never missed a mortgage payment for 40 years. That's being a hero. So who I was left with was these guys on TV and movies who you wanted to emulate, and I think that's a problem with kids nowadays, is you don't have those role models to teach you what being heroic looks like.
Right. I think the one in my generation, the one that I remember, was when 300 came out.
Yeah.
My freshman year of high school. I don't know a guy around my age that didn't love that movie back then. Like when 300 came out, everybody wanted to look like fucking Leonidas from 300.
I think that had a help to boost CrossFit, because they were doing CrossFit like training with those guys, and there's even like a 300 workout out there. But I think that movie was so popular that it boosted even CrossFit's fame. People were like, all right, that's how I want to look,
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think, to sum this thing all up, kind of my opinions on the masculinity thing is, I felt for a long time, and I think a lot of men feel this way, that you're better than everybody else. But I was never taught how to do it,
right.
How to tune in that aggression, you know what I mean? How to apply it to certain goals. You got to prove it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be better than somebody else. That's competition.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, even when I was competing in college at track and field, I sucked as a competitor. I've been telling kids recently that I was dragged along to success by two of my teammates who were 2 years ahead of me, and then after my third year, I never achieved anything after that.
Right.
And it wasn't until afterwards, reflecting upon it, is I never set another goal, and I never worked towards that goal.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of in limbo, and it led to a lot of frustrations. But then when I came here, you started actually teaching me how to apply that in the right areas, and how to set simpler goals, and how to apply it and go and chase those goals, whether it be in life, hitting certain numbers in gyms. And it's okay to be aggressive.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Go pursue those things that you want to do. Don't let anybody tell you that it's wrong, and that make sure that the aggression doesn't lead you down a bad path.
Absolutely. I think it's a great way to look at it. And as far as the Gillette commercial, they got what they wanted. Everyone was talking about it. I personally am not going to buy their shit anymore. I don't care what anybody else does. But me personally, my oath is that I'm not going to buy their shit anymore.
Mark currently hasn't shaved for 2 days.
I haven't, but that
has a grizzled beard.
Yeah.
He's looking for a new razor brand.
Right.
So if there's any razor blade companies out there that want to help Mark out, I'm sure we can send you his
no, I'm not
mailing
shaving
address
for any reason. But yeah, so strength, courage, mastery, and honor. I think those are words to live by for both genders. Don't fall for any of the nonsense in the media. Men aren't inherently bad. Aggression isn't inherently bad. Lift heavy weights, drink good rum, smoke cigars, have sex. All those things are great things, and should be done as often as humanly possible. I think that's all we got today, right?
That's all we got.
The Refined Savage. See ya.
Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. If you have any guests that you recommend for us to have on, make sure to comment down below. We'll try to get them onto the podcast. For now, head over to therefinedsavage.com. Check out all sorts of different gears and past podcasts. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, make sure that you do that. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.